Breaking news, hold on to your donuts, because what just happened in the Canadian Senate could make our country's first leaders turn over in their really old graves. Senator Mark Gold, the government's guy in the Red Room, told the country clearly and confidently that no province can leave Canada without asking Parliament for permission. First, that's right, according to Gold, we're apparently living in Hotel Canada. You can check out anytime you like, but you can never actually leave unless you politely ask Ottawa for permission. First, the rulebook problems of this are so crazy that even the most polite people who want to leave are probably whispering, sorry, but what? Now picture this, it's a regular Thursday in the Senate, and Senator Paula Simons asks what might be the most loaded question in Canadian politics, since what's really in those other Trudeau secret papers. She asks whether the Clarity Act originally made to keep Quebec from packing its bags and heading off to be on its own also works for other provinces. Just wondering, of course, definitely not, because Alberta groups who want to leave are actively collecting signatures for a vote and expecting Premier Danielle Smith to speed up a vote on leaving or anything like that. Nope, just a little casual rulebook wondering. But that's where Senator Gold's answer gets, well, interesting. And by interesting, I mean really scary for our rules. He says it's not really a matter of thinking, it's the law, the Clarity Act. He says works for all provinces, no exceptions. But then when Simons follows up with the obvious question, what steps would a province need to take to actually leave? Gold dodges like a kid who didn't study for a test. He replies with something like, well, if this were a classroom, that'd be a great question. And then completely refuses to say more. It's like asking your car fixer how to change a tire and being told that's a car question before they walk off into the sunset. So let's break down what the Clarity Act actually says, because it seems even some Senate people think it's too hard to explain to the very people who vote for them. The act was passed in 2000 after Quebec's really close 1995 vote, where people who wanted to leave lost by less than 55,000 votes out of nearly 5 million. Votes that's closer than most Stanley Cup finals and way more important for the future of Canada. The Clarity Act gives the House of Commons the power to decide whether the question asked in a vote is clear enough to show what the people really want. In theory, that sounds fair, but in practice, it means federal politicians in Ottawa get to decide whether a province's desire to leave is worded in a way they like. It's like giving your landlord a note to move out and being told, we'll let you know if your words are okay. The unfairness couldn't be more obvious unless it was wearing a bright sign and waving a tiny Canadian flag. Now, here's where it gets really spicy. Recent changes to Alberta's Citizen Initiative Act have made it easier for people to start a vote. It used to need about 600,000 signatures, but now just 177,000, roughly 5% of Alberta's people. That's not a mistake. We've gone from needing a small city's worth of support to something closer to the number of people in Red Deer. It's like making a high jump competition easier and then acting surprised when more people start jumping over it, and the Alberta Prosperity Project already has a vote question ready to go. It's short, clear, and to the point. Do you agree the province should become its own country and stop being a province of Canada? No carefully worded money partnership language like Quebec used in 1995. No vague diplomatic words. Just a straight up do you want out kind of question. It's the rule book same as ripping off a band-aid, except the band-aid is Canada and a hurt underneath is 157 years of angry federal provincial fighting. But this is where things get legally confusing, and by confusing I mean possibly explosive. Senator Gold says that Parliament must say yes to any attempt at leaving, but when asked how that would be made to happen, he offers no clear answers. What happens if Alberta holds a vote, votes yes, and Ottawa says no? Do we send in the RCMP, stop federal money block their access to Tim Hortons? Okay, that last one might be going too far. But the point stands, the way to make it happen isn't clear at all. It's about as see-through as a foggy prairie morning in January. The examples for all this are basically nothing. The Supreme Court of Canada said in 1998 that Quebec could not just leave on its own, but they also said that if there was a clear majority voting yes on a clear question, the rest of Canada would have to follow the rules to talk about it. So, in classic Canadian style, the court basically said, you can't just leave, but if you really want to, we have to sit down and talk about it. On a strong but polite and legally required version of let's talk this through over coffee and donuts. But Alberta's case is different. Quebec had a different language culture and legal system. Alberta's leaving argument is mainly political and money-based, which could create very different legal and real-world problems. And here's what's really interesting. By refusing to explain what making it happen would look like, Senator Gold is basically saying, trust us, we'll figure it out if and when it happens. That's not exactly comforting rulebook clarity coming from a former law teacher. The bigger meanings of this Senate talk go far beyond Alberta if the federal government's position is that no province can leave under any circumstances without Parliament's okay. It completely changes what Canada means. It turns Canada from a willing union of provinces into something more like a rulebook trap one, where check-in was required. But check out. Not so much. This whole argument also shows the weird contradictions of Canadian federalism. Provincial governments can hold votes, but apparently those votes only matter if Ottawa likes both the question and the outcome. It's democracy with training wheels, the kind where the federal government decides which democratic expressions are okay and which ones get sent back for fixing. So where does that leave us? As we get closer to a possible vote season in Western Canada, the Senate has basically confirmed there's no clear legal way for a province to leave even with vote support. But they've also made it clear they have no idea what would happen if a province tried to leave anyway. It's rulebook uncertainty dressed up as legal clarity. And honestly, that might be the most Canadian way possible to deal with a possibly country-ending crisis. Everyone's talking about national unity and constitutional law, with the same tone they'd use to discuss hockey stats and snowfall guesses. And that's the heart of it. Underneath all the legal arguments, Senate debates, and politely worded non-answers lies a much deeper question. What kind of country is Canada? Is it a willing partnership where citizens and provinces have the right to decide their own future? Or is it a tightly tied structure where political stability beats democratic expression? Because if the federal government can simply override the will of a province's voters, what does that say about democracy and self-determination? But on the flip side, if provinces can just walk away whenever they're unhappy with federal policy, what happens to national unity, shared responsibility, and the idea of Canada as a group project? This debate is far from over. In fact, it's just heating up as groups who want to leave gain momentum and political pressure builds. The next few years could end up redefining what it means to be Canadian, assuming we're all still Canadian when the dust settles. Thanks for watching and diving into this hard chapter of Canada's rule. Book Story with us if you found this helpful. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss an update. We'll keep breaking down the big political questions right here where history meets today's headlines.